Before we begin, I have to warn you, especially if you're listening in your car. At around the 12-minute mark, you're going to hear sirens, but they're passing by our guest's apartment as she lives in downtown London. I'm sorry I couldn't remove it, but I just wanted to make sure that it doesn't scare you or you react to it. And one more thing. This is episode 912, and we're publishing it on 9/12/23. It's like my buddy John says when he hits a golf shot that has a great result. Just like I drew it up.
It's not the golfer's job to try to hit the perfect shot. It's the golfer's job to try to be connected, mind and attention in the breathing, in the body, in the center of gravity, in the feet. And when that state is realized as inner connection, then movement is connected. Every single person who's ever been in the flow state, nobody has said, I was thinking all these technical thoughts. I was thinking how brilliant a golfer I am. I was thinking everything that my mind coach had told me. No, they don't say that. They say I was balanced, I was relaxed, I was ready, I had a clarity of intention, and my body moved. It was effortless.
This is Jeff Watson, Santa Ana, California. I play at a Willowick golf course, and you are listening to Golf Smarter, episode 912.
Connecting your mind, breath, and movement on the greens with author and teacher Jayne Storey.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, Jayne.
Hello, Fred. It's great to be seeing you again online. Thanks for asking me to come back.
Oh, absolutely, because new content. I'm excited. You took a new approach this time to your Connected series. This is connected putting, which is one of my favorite topics. I don't know why, because I just keep wanting to learn more to try to improve my putting. And this is not just a book. Actually, it isn't a book.
It's actually an audio program, which is available on my website, and I'm sure you're going to give the link at some point. But it's an audio program that I put together for people who have read Breathe Golf, which was my first book, and Connected Golf. If you have read those two books or listened to them on Audible, then you'll have some kind of idea of my background and the approach that I'm bringing to the performance space. And Connected Putting is really a follow-on from those two books.
It's a unique approach. This is not the same kind of approach you'll get from a golf instructor who's writing a book. You come at it from a very different place, not necessarily as a golfer, but definitely as an instructor.
I come at it from a completely different place, and it's taken me 20 years of hard work to begin to be listened to by the golf, the people in the golf village, as one of my mentors likes to call it. I'm not a golfer. I'm a movement and performance coach, and my background is in the martial arts, the Eastern arts, like martial arts, tai chi, and meditation. And rather than watering down those practices to make them easier and more palatable for people, I decided to stick with the authentic practice and just bringing out the essential elements of tai chi and a true and traditional practice of meditation to help golfers in two respects, really. So my work is divided into two pillars. One is about breathing, awareness of the breathing and following the breath in a formal meditation practice, which most of my readers and clients are doing. If they're not doing it every day, they're certainly practicing 3 or 4 times a week. And we've unpacked this on a previous podcast episode, but the breathing meditation it helps to quieten the mind, control the biochemistry, the nerves, and the anxiety. And when all that stuff is quiet, then the body can move freely. So the body does not it cannot respond to a checklist of instruction. Do this, do that, do this, do that, which is like a checklist approach to golf and to sport. The body moves freely and naturally when the mind is put to one side. That's the analytical mind, the thinking mind is put to one side. The other part of my work is about fundamental movement principles. So this is from 36 years of tai chi training. And this is all spoken about in connected golf. And of course, we've done a podcast on that as well. So they're fundamental movement principles, how to set the body in a way that's athletic but also relaxed. And those two approaches unite to help the golfer bring their mental and their physical, their mind game and their technique together as one. And nowhere is that needed more than on the putting green.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why'd you pick golf? If you come from martial arts and you don't
Martial
play,
arts, yeah.
yeah, why did
Well,
you
it's
pick
Jack
golf?
Nicklaus. It's all because of Jack Nicklaus. And in fact, about 25 years ago, when I was still teaching Tai Chi classes, I taught them for about 10 or 15 years, at the local rec, at the local sports centre, the health centre, the local village hall. And a lot of my students were coming back to the classes week on week, and they were winning golf tournaments, and they were winning swimming tournaments, and they were having these amazing, in the zone experiences when they were on holiday skiing. So I started to think there's something in this. And it was mostly the golfers who were saying, oh, my game's improved, or, I'm not thinking so much when I'm over the ball, or my swing feels more connected. And so, of course, if you know nothing about golf and you start to look in that time, that's 20 years ago, it was Jack Nicklaus. I thought, well, I'll study from the best. And Jack said that golf is played with the feet. All the movement in golf is anchored in the feet, with the legs that are loaded. And he was famous for leaving his footprints in the ground after he teed off. I mean, there was nobody more grounded than Jack Nicklaus. And I also think he had a very quiet mind. People say, oh, he had the toughest mind in golf, but I don't think it was a tough mind. I think it was a quiet mind, very quiet, and he had a pure intention. Pure. An intention is nothing to do with analytical thinking. It's somewhere, it emerges from a quiet inner state. So anyway, it was Jack. That's why I'm here.
It's interesting when you talk about a tough mind versus a quiet mind.
Yeah.
I think on the quiet mind is on the internal side, that internally he had a very quiet mind. But the tough mind, the way I can see it, is as a competitor, he was viewed from the competition as tough-minded.
Of course
right?
he was.
So if you look internal and external
Yeah.
view of what the mind does.
But if you looked at a samurai warrior with a quiet mind, I mean, there's quiet and there's, quiet is can be scary. People who go deathly quiet in an argument, they're more frightening than people that yell and scream.
Yes.
So it's, he wrote a lot in Golf and Life. He wrote about self-mastery. The game of golf is one of self-mastery. And it really is all about that. And that is my approach. I mean, when I've talked to people and I've spoken to hundreds of golfers at all different levels, from the pros right down to people that just play at their club at the weekend. But everybody who has had the experience of hitting the perfect shot, they all say that the mind was quiet, they felt relaxed, they had a clear intention, there was a clarity of intention about what they wanted to do. And at the highest level of golf, people also talk about a sense of knowing rather than thinking. They know that this ball is going to be pure and true. It's very interesting, but none of that, of course, can occur with the mainstream approach, which is let's think about how we're thinking and let's think about how we're going to move in a few moments' time. You know, and anybody who has had a flow state experience on the course, they'll all say they were in the moment.
Yeah. I've experienced that, and it's interesting that you brought up swimming and golf. Swimming, I've definitely experienced a flow state once I was deep into my swim, long into it, but it's constant motion, and it's such a repetitive motion that it's easy to stop thinking about it and just go with it and stay with it, which was the times that I felt that have been wonderful. It's not as frequent, and I definitely golf much more than I swim, but the times that I've felt disconnected from my actions and just was going, but it's hard to do because you have so much time in between the action.
Yes, it's a shame. I know what you mean about swimming because I'm a swimmer and I've had flow state experiences when I'm swimming. When I was a lot younger, I used to run, and similarly in running, I've had experiences where,
Sure.
you know, coming around a bend, there's a huge hill, and instead of going, oh God, oh, you know, and worrying about it, you just stay with that breath, stay with that step, and you're in the flow state and nothing alters inside. But you see, golfers have an enormous opportunity in those moments of stillness, but it's wasted because they're taught to think about how they're thinking, think about how they're going to move. You know, it's like searching for a swing or searching for your putting stroke. And if we go back to the analogy of the samurai warrior, before a fight or before they draw their sword,
They're not coming to get you, are they?
they're not coming for me. No way.
All right. Well, we're going to take a
Sorry.
break and let them. Yeah, let's take a break and we'll let it pass, and we'll be back right after this. I'm so sorry to interrupt you, and it wasn't me that interrupted. It was all that noise. But anyway, so let's talk about that time that golfers have in between shots, especially in between putts, that can help them avoid the distractions.
That's right. I mean, golfers create a lot of their own distractions, you know, because the mind is so busy. And we're living in a society now where people have less and less attention. Somebody said the other day who was interviewing me that attention has become like a commodity. All the big corporations are vying for our attention. So when you practice something like meditation or these performance practices that I'm teaching, you actually begin to reclaim your attention instead of squandering it and wasting it. So, and also, when we reclaim the attention, we're able to focus on our breath and on our body and feeling the feet on the ground and really centering ourselves. And when that happens, the body starts to move in a different way. So when a golfer's standing over a putt and they're anxious, you can bet your house on the fact that they are breathing up here into the chest, probably breathing quite shallowly, and that their shoulders are tight as a result of that. And that makes the whole body tight. They're probably gripping the putter too tightly. The mind is thinking and worrying about, oh, so-and-so's watching me, or everyone's come out from the clubhouse, or what if I miss, or what if I make birdie? And all this stuff is going on. And there's no way the body can move in the way that it should move, freely, naturally, spontaneously, in the moment when all that stuff is going on. So golfers have a huge opportunity when they're standing over the putt to settle into themselves, to bring the attention inside the body, relax the chest, relax the shoulders, bring the attention to the center of gravity, which we call the dantian. In yoga and in Zazen meditation, they call it the Hara center. And it's the body's center of gravity. And when we relax the upper body, suddenly we have more strength and stability in the legs. We're better balanced. And the shoulders can move nice and freely. So I call it connected putting and connected golf. And really the whole paradigm, Fred, that I'm trying to change or, alert people to, should they wish to follow this path, is that it's not the golfer's job to try to hit the perfect shot. It's the golfer's job to try to be connected, mind and attention in the breathing, in the body, in the center of gravity, in the feet. And when that state is realized, this inner connection, then movement is connected. And back to what we were saying before, every single person who's ever been in the flow state, nobody has said, I was thinking all these technical thoughts. I was thinking how brilliant a golfer I am. I was thinking everything that my mind coach had told me. No, they don't say that. They say I was balanced, I was relaxed, I was ready, I had a clarity of intention, and my body moved. It was effortless.
I didn't listen to Connected Golf. The audio wasn't available yet, but I was reading the script.
Okay.
And but that was fine. I'm so excited because I do want to listen to it. You do the reading of this, correct?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Well, just your rhythm and your presentation is so calming anyway, so I can't wait to listen to it. But I did really absorb the ideas of breathing and centering during the putting, and was looking forward so much so to my next round of golf where I can utilize that information.
Great.
And I played golf, and after the round, and I started reviewing because we were going to have this conversation, I started reviewing and realized I'd forgotten all of it. I didn't do it once. Because once I'm on the putting green,
yeah,
I'm very focused on my breathing when I'm about to hit a full swing shot. But when I'm on the putting green, it didn't, even though I was trying to remind myself, breathe, slow down, connect yourself to the ground, do these things. It just didn't, I wasn't able to do it.
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say that. And it's very useful to bring that up as a point. Because most people think, oh, that breathing, yeah, I can do that. They take it as a given. Whereas in fact, when the biochemistry starts to change and the anxiety and the stress response kicks in, we have to have a body of practice under our belt. This is why I'm asking all the athletes I work with, 15, 20 minutes a day, sit quietly or stand in certain qigong, tai chi postures to train your body to be relaxed but ready. If you don't do that, you haven't got really a hope in hell's chance of remembering when you need to. Because the biochemistry has gone into stress mode, It creates the breathing changes, the anxiety is aroused, you start to feel nervous. And it takes a lot of discipline and a body of practice to overcome that. One, we have to see it. Oh, I'm so anxious, or I'm really rushing. And then, okay, I need to breathe and I need to slow down and really make that effort. And of course, when you do your practice, every morning, day by day, by day by day, things change. And it's not easy. It's not easy at all. So it's not for everybody. It's only for people who are prepared to change their daily habits because they want to get from here to, wherever they are in golf, to being, 100 times better, to really fulfilling their potential on the course and really enjoying it. But I was speaking to a young guy recently who is a golfer and a surfer up in Scotland. And he's practiced diligently day by day by day by day. And as I said, we're talking 15 or 20 minutes, that's all. And he was talking to me in our last Zoom lesson about the fact that in the past, he wasn't really playing golf. He was searching for a swing and just feeling awkward, and his swing felt weird and his putting felt weird, and he was off and he was angry and he was frustrated and he couldn't understand why. And he has more swing lessons and he reads all the psychology books and nothing changes.
Wow.
So because he had this, Kevin his name is, because he had this body of his own effort, his own discipline, his own daily trying to be quiet and be in the breathing. So now when he goes out, he can manage that state of anxiety. He can change his own biochemistry on the course by staying with the breath. And it's really important to understand that I'm afraid many, many athletes who try to work with their breathing are often taught by mental game coaches. So they have an idea about how the athlete should be breathing. I mean, I saw one of our skiers, an English skier. I won't say his name because he did quite well after this. But at the time when I was watching him at the gates at the top of the slalom, he was literally. And a lot of athletes think, okay, I'm breathing, because they're taught by mind coaches, or their technical coach has read something on mindfulness and this is how it's presented to the athlete. But of course it doesn't help at all because you're just exacerbating that stress response. Now the Eastern way, the martial arts way, is not to try to take a deep breath like that, but to have the awareness in the dantian, so the navel area and slightly below, and keeping the attention there. This is why it's important to train day by day. So when you have the attention there, everything slows down. The breath slows down. The breath deepens in the body. And this is the only thing that overcomes the stress response. No amount of thinking or analyzing or reviewing your technique is going to help.
Wow. Let's take another
Sorry,
breath.
Fred, I go on and on. I'm just so passionate about this,
You are, and I love that. I love that.
That's
All right, we're going to take
great.
one more break, and we'll be back right after this. You mentioned earlier the authentic approach. Let's kind of work through that a minute. What do you mean exactly by the authentic approach?
I mean, doing things as they have always been done for hundreds of years, not making them more palatable and easier for Western society and the pace of Western society, because it doesn't help anybody. listening to a mindfulness app for 3 minutes, people will try and kid you that that's actually going to help you in some way, and it doesn't. There are thousands, millions of people around the world today in the Eastern world, if I can call it that, China, Japan, in India as well, who sit in meditation for 20 minutes, 40 minutes. And, if you look at all the martial arts clubs, let's look at all the karate clubs in America. You can bet anything that the teachers, the senseis, who include meditation as part of their curriculum with their students, those students will always do better in a competition against another club. They're not going to do better if they listen to a mindfulness app for 3 minutes, a guided meditation, because all that stuff does, it's just more fodder for the mind, which is already overworked, too busy. Was it Dr. Izzy Justice who said that the mind of teenagers now with their devices is like a schizophrenic mind from the 1950s? It's on a parallel, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we're trying to solve problems using the very thing that creates the problems in the first place. My mind's too busy, so therefore, should I listen to a mindfulness app on my phone? I mean, in whose universe does that make any sense? Not mine.
Not yours.
If my mind is too busy, I can work at bringing my attention to the breath and allowing the mind to calm down. So when I say authentic, I mean doing it properly, doing it as it should be done, and doing it in a way that actually has benefit. But also the thing that is most beneficial is the effort that one makes to do the practice. When you consistently make effort, and also when you struggle with yourself, oh, I'm bored, this is awful, my God, I want to hang myself, I'd rather wash up or do anything than sit in meditation. But then maybe after a few weeks, it's like, oh, I had a better game of golf today, I wasn't so nervous walking out to the first tee, and I go back to my practice the next day, and actually I quite enjoy it. And maybe the following week, I experience a few moments of absolute quiet, total calm, and I carry on, and my golf gets better, and wow, my relationship gets better, and I sleep better, and I enjoy the taste of my food more. And when I'm out on the golf course, I actually hear the birds singing. All this, it's like an unfolding of one's natural abilities, and the joy of it. But without the effort, none of that arises. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense. Is it as easy as it should be? Or you make it sound, I'm not so sure about that. I want to ask you about slow walking meditation.
Sure. Slow walking meditation. What do you want to know about it? How to do it?
I want to know. Yes.
Well, it's integral to Japanese Zazen, which is the breath-centered meditation that they have done in Japan for hundreds of years. It actually comes from Chan meditation, which is a Chinese word, but everybody knows it as Zen. And the monks alternate between sitting in meditation and doing a slow walking meditation. If anybody wants to study those two things further, I would highly recommend a book called Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind by Shunryu Suzuki, who was the epitome of a Zen master. And there's no philosophy, there's no preaching, there's no spiritual connotations, or religious connotations, if people are put off by that. It's purely the breath, the most fundamental of all our activities, and bringing the awareness to that. So slow walking can help on the golf course in so many ways. When we practice slow walking at home or in the garden or in the park, we're trying to walk as slowly as possible, keeping the same structural and postural points in the body that we do in our standing meditation. And you can find out all about that on the Connected Putting audio and in the book Connected Golf. And I have free worksheets and training reports. If you just want to message me, I'll send you something. So when we're walking slowly, we're trying to be, again, training the attention to stay with the body, with the posture, with the center of gravity, with the breath, and with that step. So it's a training that helps us to stay in the moment, rather than the mind rushing on ahead, thinking about how we're going to play the next shot or how we're going to get out of the bunker. And on the golf course, it's very useful because when you have that training behind you, then it's much easier to stay present rather than, getting yourself into a frenzy in your mind, thinking, oh, if I just birdie this, I'm the club champion. So again, it's authentic, traditional, formal training to stay in the moment. And the moment is always an absence of thinking. And this is why, I'm continually surprised with even the greatest golfers. They talk about, thinking about the present moment, which again, for me, it shows they've been taught by a mind coach rather than being taught by somebody who has an experience of meditation. Because the present moment, one's experience of the present moment, is the absence of thinking. It's not the mind's job to try to be present. The mind is for planning, thinking, organizing. It's for recalling the past, working out problems, projecting into the future. And in meditation, all of that it just quietens down, because we're not feeding that, we're not giving it energy, we're not encouraging it, we're not on that treadmill. We've taken back our mental attention, taken all of it back and put it in the body, in the breath. So it's a long answer to your question. But they're all very, very helpful practices to stay where you are, be where you are.
Yeah. Listen, let's do one more time out here and see what's happening this week on Golf Smarter Mulligans. And we'll be back more with Jayne Storey on connected putting after this. This week on Golf Smarter Mulligans, we go back to 2012 and part 2 of our conversation with Jim Waldron. In this episode, we cover consistency, distance, accuracy, and golf schools.
Avoid anybody who promises instant, permanent swing like a pro results. It's just not going to happen. It may happen on some shots in the golf school, and that does happen for most of our students in our golf schools. But we also tell people, look, this is a process that you're starting. If you think you're going to come to the school and we're going to teach you in 3 days how to swing like a pro, and that's going to be your swing that you'll take to the golf course for even most of your rounds of golf, you're kidding yourself. I mean, it can't be done. If anybody's promising that level, I'm talking permanent improvement in 3 days, obviously avoid those people like the plague because they're liars. What you want to expect is to get information that you can use for the rest of your life to get better at golf, and you want to learn how to learn it, and you have to learn from the golf school how to practice effectively, both home practice, which is the most effective way to practice, and what you do at the range.
That's episode 228, part 2 of our conversation featuring Jim Waldron of BalancePointGolf.com on our sister podcast, Golf Smarter Mulligans, and it's being released this Friday morning. Originally published as a members-only episode in February 2012, means that this insightful conversation has never been shared with the public before. So if you're a fan of Golf Smarter's content, then don't miss your chance to get 2 episodes every week. That's Golf Smarter, Golf's longest-running podcast, and Golf Smarter Mulligans, episodes from our archives that revisit the best of the Golf Smarter podcast. They're both available for free from wherever you're listening right now. There was one aspect of your audio presentation that I was reading that really caught my attention. And I need to know if I got this right or if this was just the brain fog from lingering with COVID. Talking about if you, see if I can interpret this properly. If you're sitting in a chair and you take a golf club and you put it on over your shoulders behind your neck, and you rotate your body with the golf club, you rotate from the waist, not the shoulders. But when you're putting, it seems like you're trying to rotate from the upper body, the top, your shoulders. You're rotating there. And it made me realize, wait a minute, am I putting all arms and not using my body? In a way that when I went out and started practice putting with that in mind and was keeping my body from my waist up as one, I was able to get a better roll on the ball, a better stroke, more consistent line, instead of trying to force it with just my arms. Am I overthinking this, or did I come on to something?
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, and that is the way that people putt when they're relaxed and when they're in the zone. Going back to Jack Nicklaus and the correlation between his approach to golf and tai chi, all movement,
You really got your
including the
attention.
putting stroke, all movement, including the putting stroke, comes from the ground upwards. It's anchored in the feet and then moves through the waist. And I was always taught, when I had teachers long ago in Tai Chi, that the upper body must respond to the lower body. It should not initiate movement. And here's the problem with putting from the shoulders. When my attention is on my shoulders, then I become very tight in the upper body. And my breath is centered in the chest. And as we've spoken about in this conversation, when all that's going on, it creates anxiety. And couple that with the way that golf is taught, in the mainstream, there's always some kind of stress already embedded into the golfer because they're trying to get it right, rather than like Hogan and Nicklaus they try to actually feel, well, what's going on in my body? So as I said before, this is about reclaiming your power, reclaim your attention from YouTube and Instagram and all this stuff. Reclaim it and reclaim ownership of your own body. Inhabit your own body. So when you stand over the putt, and I love how you described the way that you interpreted connected putting, Fred, that when you're moving your whole upper body as a unit, and that's perfectly right, that the movement is actually initiated from the dantian, which is the center of gravity. And it will make the stroke feel more pure and more true, because there are no straight lines in nature, and the putting stroke really isn't a straight line, is it? It's got to be there's a straight line but it's a straight line within a curve, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And the dantian is imagine like a ball. Imagine a golf ball inside the torso, which is the center of, it's your point of centrifugal force, or centrifugal force for the American audience.
Thank you.
And it's like the hub of a wheel. It's the hub of a wheel around which your upper body can rotate quite naturally. And people know this. Everybody knows this. And when you've felt this, when you've hit the ball, struck the ball sweet, and you've struck it beautifully, what I find really interesting with the women that I work with is that they seem to intuitively know this stuff anyway. If you look at the way the
Really?
women move their bodies on the pros, how they move, they have this beautiful separation where their legs are very firm. The hip bones only move a fraction. But then there's this beautiful separation where the waist and the upper body, the torso, actually carries on that rotation. So you guys need to watch the girls, how they putt, how they swing. Because that's Tai Chi. It's rooted in the feet, moves through the waist, and then is just expressed in the hands. But as I say, everybody who's had a beautiful shot or enjoyed swimming or walking in the park or being on a skateboard or a snowboard
Surfboard.
yeah, or figure skating, skateboard. That gives my age away. We used to play on skateboards when we were kids. But
Oh, yeah.
anyone who's been in the flow state knows this. But of course, it's not taught in mainstream sport. It's psychology, mind game, technique. That's what's taught. So this stuff, this work that I'm bringing, it can underpin that. Because I'm no way am I saying don't have any more technical lessons or don't bother with psychology. That's not what I'm saying. It's all very useful. It's extremely useful to set goals and to try to talk to yourself more positively and encourage yourself and reframe negative thoughts. That's valuable. It must be done. And we must learn about technique for our sport. But what I'm saying is when you're playing your sport, when you're playing golf, you must play golf. Not think about how are you going to hit the shot. I mean, the girls, the English Lionesses, we've just won the semi-final against Australia in the football. And Serena Wiegman, the coach of the Lionesses, what I find remarkable about her and the squad is that she talks about the team play football. They play football. It seems so simple, but they play football. They're not thinking about playing football or thinking about technique or hesitating before they make a pass or overthinking a penalty shot. They're playing football. So golfers, I think, would benefit from understanding that reading a book on psychology, reading about technique, having a swing lesson, that's like me. I'm trying to learn the guitar. So I'm trying to learn flamenco and blues guitar. And when I practice
Wow.
technique, I'm practicing technique. But that's not music, is it? It's not
Yes.
music. It's me going up and down the fretboard, practicing technique and where my fingers are landing and how to pluck the strings. So in golf, technical, psychological, it's all part of what makes you a great golfer, but it doesn't help you play on the golf course. It doesn't help you release the complexity of the golf swing in a way that's effortless and natural in the moment on the course. You need this other work to underpin that.
Wow. Like doing flamenco and blues guitar is kind of like learning how to play golf and walk on a balance beam. I mean, they're so radically. I mean, the technical aspects of both are so radically different. I mean, why don't you just do one at a time? You might be overthinking the guitar there. That's a lot.
Well,
That's
it's
really
in
vast.
conjunction with my teacher. I have personal lessons and online
Hmm.
lessons with somebody here, but it's the fact that it's like gypsy music. It's music that has soul.
Mm,
It's music that's come from the
yes,
people, grown up from the streets. So actually, there is a similarity
the flamenco
between
is
them.
so
And one day I may go to one or the other, but I mean, do you know Joni Mitchell? Joni Mitchell, I mean, she had this
of
amazing
course.
comeback recently. She's
Yeah,
one of my favorite singer
yeah,
songwriters, but she's a
yeah.
painter. So she always said how the
Right.
painting feeds the music feeds the painting. So I can play blues all weekend, and then I don't want to do that anymore, and I want to do a bit of flamenco. But it's like athletes, a
It's so
golfer,
technical.
Look at
Yeah.
Martina Navratilova, greatest tennis player, one of the greatest tennis players of all time, is a brilliant golfer, you know? So
Huh.
I like
Well, you
multitasking.
talked about your um, your not obsession, but your study of Jack Nicklaus seems to be quite deep. Are there women golfers that you also seem to really focus on and learn from?
Well, I liked Mickey Wright. She passed away, I think, a few years
Mm,
ago, but she was a golfer of whom Ben Hogan said that she had the best swing. And again,
wow.
it's just so beautiful, languid, free, so natural. And she, if you look back at some of her interviews, she talks about just being in the moment. There's one story where I
Hmm.
can't remember where she was in the States, but she's coming down the 18th fairway, and she's expected to win on her home course, and her parents are there watching her, and you can't. She said you can't let all that stuff get to you. You just have to, be focused on what you're doing, what you can control. And I've sort of put that into a mantra, which is one breath at a time, one shot at a time, one hole at a time. Um, but I was at the Women's Open last week, and I have a client who was playing in that, and it was great to follow her around, and but also to see the difference between how she prepares for her shots and how the other girls prepare. I could really
Mm,
see with my client how she was breathing and she was in the body. And a lot of the other girls, they're relying purely on technique. Um,
hmm,
yeah, but we can
interesting.
learn from any
Interesting.
athlete and from our own practice.
Let's figure out and share with everybody how to obtain your audio program of connected putting.
Okay, so I have a website. It's chi-performance. So chi is spelt chi performance.com. Chi is the Chinese word for the energy or the breath. And there's
Hmm.
a menu bar there. One of the links is products, and you can go to the shop page. You'll see my books there, but you'd have to get those from Amazon, I think. But the audio connected putting is right there. If you send me a personal message, my email address is there, or you can use the contact form on the website. Tell me you've heard me talking to Fred, and I'll send you some bonus material. And that would be a quick start guide to your performance practice, so how to do this training. And I have some drills, some range drills and putting drills. And I also put together a training report on chipping. So they're not available on the website, but if you message me, I'll send them to you.
Yeah, so message Jayne and just mention Golf Smarter and you'll get those bonus items as well. So Jayne, thank you very much for joining us today. It was great to talk to you again, and best of luck with the audio presentation. You're probably aware that usually the theme music ends when they say goodbye. But twice during this recording, Jayne's signal fell out and we lost her and didn't realize it. So one, there's an edit. You probably didn't know where it was, but the ending was clearly not real. Anyway, got a great line from a listener who shared this with me on Instagram. It says, "When I was young, I sucked at golf. But after years of dedication, practice, and coaching, I'm no longer young." Frequently, I'm asked, both from listeners and from guests, about the lessons that I take. And if you haven't figured it out from listening, I don't take lessons. Actually, okay, I've had 4 lessons since starting to play in 1997. 3 with a coach named Doug Acton, a wonderful coach here in Marin County, and 2 of which of those lessons is when I just started playing. Surprising to me is that he's never really been interested in being on the podcast, so he isn't. I've also had a lesson from Ken Doherty, the head golf professional at Marin Country Club right next to my house. Now, the last time Ken was on the show was 2017. The reason I bring it up is because I'm committed to getting the best instruction I can on Golf Smarter, and I wanted to show you that you can improve your game and lower your scores from the lessons that we get here. I've mentioned before that when I started publishing the show in 2005, I don't think I had a handicap, but a good round was in the high 90s. But as of today's recording, I do have an ongoing and honest handicap, and I'm a 9.5. Now, my point is that I'm not discouraging you from taking lessons, but I am here to testify that I've become a single-digit handicap golfer primarily from the instruction that we get here on Golf Smarter. And I know you can too. I do want to welcome this week's Golf Smarter ambassador, Jeff Watson of Santa Ana, California. Now, as you heard, Jeff chose to record his episode introduction on his own phone and then send me the file. You can do that too, especially if you're outside the United States, where sometimes the phone number that I provide doesn't always work. But if you'd like to just call our toll-free Golf Smarter listen line and be on the podcast and receive a free gift for participating, you're encouraged to do so. Gifts include Tony Manzoni's video of the Lost Fundamental, a box of Odin X1 balls with the Golf Smarter logo, or a glove and glove storage compartment from redroostergolf.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes and today's blog post so you can learn more about each of these places. So, what about you? We'd all like to hear where you live, play, and listen to Golf Smarter. Send me an email, and you too can receive a free gift of your choice just for participating. Write to me, and I'll get back to you with some instructions of what to do and what to say. Send your request to golfsmarterpodcast@gmail.com or click on the Hey Fred button when you visit golfsmarter.com.